All right, good evening, fellow protectors. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Greg LaBeouf here with you. Got Brad Vanderlight with me. Dustin is gone. He's out traveling the world, doing exciting and adventurous things, but we're holding down the fort. So, welcome to tonight's podcast. Again, where our whole sole mission is to help educate good men, help them weaponize so that they become a life-saving force in a dark, critical moment, right? Help people understand a little more about violence and how to protect when you ultimately face criminal violence in defense of yourself, your property, other innocent people. So let's jump into this tonight. It's a really cool subject. I'm going to geek out on some things here. I really love this stuff, but I titled tonight's podcast on "Get Your All Access Pass for Surviving Violence." So we're going to talk about what this concept of an all access pass is. It is so imperative for people to know. Very few people know this, talk about this, think about it in this way. I really think if you stick with us tonight and listen to this podcast, you're going to walk away with a ton of real increased survivable value from this topic. So, you know what? We're going to cut to the intro. We're going to come back and we're going to dive right in, go deep, and start unpacking this. So, stick with us. Figure out how you get your all access pass for surviving violence. Every day I hear more stories of good people being brutally assaulted and murdered by some individual who has a repeat history of violent offenses, drug addiction, and mental health issues, who is free to walk the streets in the same city where I live, work, and where I am raising my two daughters. Well, I'm tired of screaming at the TV, and enough is enough. Throughout history, there have always been men willing to answer the call to the threats against our way of life. Well, today, that threat is right outside our doors, on our streets, in our neighborhoods, on our public transportation system, outside the places we work, and even outside of our children's schools. My new mission is to create and train a group of men that believe in the right to life and value the freedom a man has to protect his life, his family, and his property. I'm Greg LaBeouf. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, everybody, we are back. Again, welcome back. Tonight, I want to talk about this concept of this all-access pass for surviving violence. And really what I'm talking about is, there's two words, gain access. And those are two very, very powerful words that everybody needs to understand when it comes to protecting yourself and your family from violent criminal assault. There is a false belief that I think most people have. And the false belief is that when you are confronted by violence, that you will automatically have access to the violent individuals that are assaulting you. And I mean, I get why there's this false belief exists, because you got, let's paint a very clear picture. You've got just good men, right? Good people. And, you live your life, you go to bed, you wake up, you get ready for work, you go out, you earn a living. I mean, good men, what? Provide and protect. This is what we want to do. So most men in the course of the day, we are providing for our families. And then, of course, we all understand that there's threats in this world. At any point in time, we can find ourselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you find yourself on the X. So now you have a violent individual or individuals, and these people target you. So in that scenario, well, for them to be a threat to us, bad guys come to us. Right? Like, we're not going out looking for them, so they're coming to us. So right away, you're like, well, I have access to them too. They come to me, meaning the threat is right here. So of course I have access to them. Meaning this, or let me I guess I'll say it this way. Whatever it is you think you're going to do, right? Everyone's got a plan. So whatever you think your plan is, for how you're going to defend yourself, if and when, right, this becomes a physical altercation, right? A life and death situation. Whatever your plan is, you have to have access to execute whatever your plan is. And again, the parallel to this is most people think, well, yeah, they just came to me. Like, they're in my face, they're threatening me, they're in my home, they're standing at my car, I'm standing in line with my kids, and now these fuckers are right here. So, of course, I have access to them. We have to go much deeper on this concept. Because just because somebody is within a proximity, right? So talking about range, they're close to me, does not mean that I have access. So when we are training people and we're teaching our kill chain to people, one of the first concepts that we work on, and there's multiple strategies that do this, but is we have to actually train people for how to gain access. Proximity in and of itself, a bad guy coming towards you, that's the initiative. Remember, violent criminals, they get to choose time, location, duration of the assault, intensity of the assault. They choose often whether they bring people with them, what tools or weapons they bring to this equation. I mean, they have the initiative. So yes, they're coming to you. But that doesn't just automatically give us an all-access pass to them. Remember, bad guys, violent criminals aren't looking for a fight. They have no vested interest in making this fair or equal or, consensual, anything like that. So most times when violent criminals come to us, yes, they have the initiative. They are bringing the threat to us. But they are, by the very nature of a violent assault, wanting to deny you access to them. So everyone thinks, they think like it's going to be a fight. And in a fight, I'm going to attack you. And if you choose to defend yourself, you will attack me back. And we will have, two, attackers basically. One attacking from a defensive position, one attacking from offense, one bad guy, one good guy, and the fight ensues. But that is not how violence works. Like I said, that is a false belief. They are wanting to deny you access, and that should resonate. Of course, violent criminals don't want to make this equal. They don't want it to be consensual. They're not looking for a fight. They're looking to victimize. They are looking to destroy. Violence is about one thing, that is destruction. Okay, so, I know, Brad, you obviously know this on a deeper level, but I just want your visceral, kind of take on what I'm talking about when it comes to access. And of course, we're going to dive deeper and unpack that. But how is this resonating with you?
Yeah, I think that from my point of view, I think that my head has gone maybe in a couple of different directions. Like I understand about having access, and just because they're there doesn't mean, I agree, it doesn't mean that you have access to them. Yeah. My head, and I don't know if this is the way that you intended to go, but we're talking on a physical level, right? Essentially, I think at first glance, there's that physical level. But then I really think that it's deeper than that. I think there's more to it than that, because there is a psychological level. There is a emotional level that also I believe that is a barrier to access. It's like that could be the barrier of why we don't actually have access to defend ourselves against violent criminal assault in that moment. Does that kind of make sense? I know.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And again, there's a lot of different ways that we can take this, right? And so that absolutely makes sense. So I'll do this to kind of narrow it down, and then, you'll be able to go deeper on your insights. But I'll start just with this. There's two primary types of predators. You have a posturing predator and you have a blitzer. And so the posturing predator, these guys, well, they posture, and most people probably have a limited perception of what it means to posture. We all understand it, but when you're talking about violent predatory criminals, their status, their sense of display, their respect, their street credit, their whatever term you want to kind of call that, these guys thrive off this. And so whether it's in prison or they're kicked back out on the streets, or you grow up in fucking rough neighborhoods and all this type of shit, drug addiction, all this type of shit that you could be in. And this even goes to just good men. You got these quote unquote average men that are under the influence and fucking doing drugs and fucking financial pressure, whatever it is. Men are wrapped up in their status. But when you're talking about real, deep predatory criminals, that status is their respect. And so when they go to attack people, when they go to victimize people, they have learned through experience that most times when you do not value life, and a matter of fact, let's go deep on this. A criminal that hits the streets, gets pushed back out on the streets, a guy maybe who's murdered, a guy who's viciously and violently assaulted and raped or whatever it is, there is significance in that for them. If they find themselves in a fucking confrontation or altercation, they walk around with this kind of thought process of do you know who the fuck I am? Those words have been spoken in so many violent assaults that end up in the murder of innocent people. You know who I am? And yet it's kind of a ludicrous question because it's like, how the fuck would they know who you are? Like you're a random stranger to them. But what that is a reflection of their status. Meaning what they're really saying, if I decode that for people, is, do you know what the fuck I've done? Do you know what I'm capable of doing? And so this is just a quick crash course. When these guys walk up, they do not value life. Meaning, if it comes to it, if they feel like it, just off a fucking whim, because they think it'll be funny, they'll murder. And to most good people, the thought of murdering somebody over fucking nothing is really hard for people to get their brain around. But for these guys, what that does is that enhances their status. They go to prison and they're on a higher fucking pedestal, man. Right? The bigger the body count, the more vicious, the bigger your status fucking grows. People don't fuck with you. You don't just get this sense of prestige and fear and power. You get women. Like, they profit from this in so many different ways. And what they've learned is when they have that energy, when they walk up to the average person on the fucking street, that puts that person into submission. People are instantaneously, cognitively, physiologically, emotionally, they're overwhelmed. Now, I needed to set that up because when one of these guys comes up to you, a posturing predator, he comes to you, they use verbal discourse. I mean, I can tell you of a murder that happened where a guy's coming out, this is, 6, 7 o'clock at night, he's walking out of a 7-Eleven. He didn't see the guy standing out there that was scoping him and clocking him, that was, giving off that fucking status. I mean, you could see this on the CCTV footage. This guy was dripping with fucking criminal intent and violent behavior. But our good guy wasn't paying attention or wanted to deny it. Just didn't want, if I don't look, it's going to be okay. And as he's getting in his car, this guy walks over and approaches him. And he just asked him a very simple fucking question. Hey man, you got a cigarette? But that question was just for him, bad guy, to gain access to good guy. He used verbal discourse. He didn't say, hey man, fuck you. Hey motherfucker. You got a cigarette? And as he's saying that, he's gaining access to this guy. He's moving into proximity. Now, in this moment, our good guy looks back and goes, oh no, sorry man, I don't smoke. And the criminal goes, I didn't ask if you fucking smoked, I asked if you had a smoke. And that causes this disconnect because the guy's sitting there going, the good guy is going, what? Why would I have a cigarette if I don't fucking smoke? He gets the guy fucking contemplating. He's kind of, what the fuck? All he did was gained access. He used the first verbal cues to bridge proximity. And then once he was close enough, when the guy gave the answer, which he, was probably hoping he'd get, no man, I don't smoke, and then he hits him with the next verbal cue, that kept access open to him. It gave him an all access pass. Because when the guy was mentally trying to decode, because that makes no fucking sense to ask a follow-up question when somebody says that, when he's confused, what he does is pull out a fucking butcher knife and started fucking stabbing him. And I mean, he didn't survive it. He was, he killed him. And it was just a gang initiation over no fucking reason. So now in this scenario, the bad guy did some very specific things. This wasn't by chance. But the bad guy had a refined strategic and tactical approach to give him access to the good guy, to keep the good guy vulnerable. Now, you could sit there and say, yeah, but that good guy, geez, if he had training, if he had better situational awareness, all these different things, yes, those things can help him. But what I want you to understand is that the bad guy gave himself an all-access pass while denying access to the good guy. It's like psychological warfare, but it plays out not only psychologically, but there's ways that these guys do this physiologically. They can literally get people in. I mean, they use human physiology against people and get them in a cognitive disconnect, cognitive rubbernucking. They get them in a mental stall. There are so many different ways that when this is applied on good people, it shuts down access. It's like in that moment, you cannot access your motor survival program. You can't access your skill sets, your training, your knowledge. And so this is kind of what I wanted to talk about like, we have to really have conversations about this stuff. And part of your training has to include how you, A, deny access to violent criminals who are very crafty in gaining access, not just proximity, but we also have to learn how to run countermeasures so that we actually, in fact, gain access to them, and in ways where now we're turning the physiological spectrum, kind of upside down on them. So, I mean, hopefully, I know that'll make a lot more sense to you. And if you really think about it, our Trojan horse is what is designed to give us access to survive the tsunami of initiative, right? So that's kind of how there's other ways we could talk about this, but that's how I kind of wanted to drill it down for today. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you think of a violent criminal, we always say this, that they want one thing, and that's to destroy.
Yeah.
And in order to destroy you, they need access to you, right? Nobody is walking away from you being like, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to attack you, I'm going to murder you and your family, when they're running in the opposite direction, right? So the whole thing for them to achieve that ultimate destruction is getting access, right? We talk about posturing, we talk about blitzing. Those are the ways that they could do it. And, I know that you talked about the Trojan horse, and that's one of our strategies, but we can't use the same strategy that they used to get access to them. It doesn't work that way. So we, like you said, we need that countermeasure. Whereas how do we have, falsehood precedes reality? How do we take these strategies and implement them when we're in the face of that? Because again, if I put my hands up to a guy and I'm like, there's no way you're getting access to me, well, I just essentially removed access to him because I put his shields up, right? So, it's one of those things. It's like, well, what's your strategy to get access to circumvent what they're doing to you, because you can't do what they're doing. And even if you're saying, well, I'm way fucking bigger than he is and I'm stronger than he is, oh, so okay, that's cool. Well, there's three of them. The guy in the back has his hands in his pocket and he's got a knife in his belt or whatever, or he's got a gun in his pocket. And it's like, okay, so you're bigger and stronger. So now what? It doesn't really work, because now I don't care how big and strong you are. The strategy is not going to work, because you're trying to do the exact same strategy onto them as that they're doing onto you. So what is that countermeasure? So you're not putting their shields up. You're actually indulging them, not the right word, but the concept's there, to get to actually give you and give up access, as opposed to you trying to take it.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to pull a couple of the words that you said out of there, and we're going to expand those out. And one of the concepts I love is that, just to paraphrase what Brad is saying, is that there is a concept called denied access for both. And so if all of a sudden bad guys roll up and, hey, oh man, you got to fucking smoke, and right away you got that bad feeling of, oh, no, man, sorry, I don't smoke. This guy is trying to put you and keep you with your shields down and vulnerable, or he's trying to overwhelm you. He's trying to overpower you, even just cognitively, not physically at this point with the posturing predator. And so what they're doing is constantly trying to, again, keep you disorientated, off base, off balance, and keep you vulnerable for the moment they decide to attack. And when is that? Well, they're trying to optimize and maximize. So they have access to you where you have no access to them, because you're caught in, this kind of negative feedback loop, or what they call a duress loop. But all of a sudden, good guy, feeling the bad intentions, and he kind of, reshifts his weight and drops his leg back, his hands come out of his pocket, maybe his hands come up and he's like, yo man, hey, I said I don't have a fucking cigarette, fuck off. And so he gets, in a way, confrontational. But most people would look at it and say, well, yeah, that makes sense, because he's not trying to be confrontational directly. He is showing them, hey, back the fuck up. He is defensive, defensive aggression, right? So he is showing the guy both that he has either the willingness or the capability, or the willingness and capability together. He's revealing something. And so all of a sudden, bad guy does what? Oh, fuck. This guy, that guy's shields went up, bad guy's shields go up, and now you got two fucking, theoretically silverback gorillas beating their chest, posturing around each other, denied access for both. Now, at times, could that be beneficial? Yeah, I guess. Theoretically it could, because, if it stays one-on-one and they didn't bring any weapons, and you don't have, and you guys just like Star Trek, you're fucking on the planet's surface and you're, scoping each other out. Okay, but even then, you better hope that he's not bigger, stronger, and better than you. So, anyways, the point is denied access for both. What you're talking about off another word is, or the way that you were starting to say it is, one of the best ways is, so the term is the shields. If you think of it, bad guys want good guys' shields down for all the obvious reasons. Good guys should actually want to put the bad guy's shields down. Either get him to drop his shields or never have him put his shields up in the first place. And then it's like, okay, well, wouldn't that be great? But how do you do that? Well, it is not by raising your shields. He's never going, when you raise your shields, they're never going to drop their shields. Like that's just fucking silly. You got a gun pointed on a man and he pulls his gun and points it back. Most people don't put their gun down. Right? Most serious individuals, it's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then that's followed by a whole lot of bangs and projectiles flying through the air. So one of the things about dropping the shields, and you were right on this and talking about this, the term that I'll put to it is expectations. Violent criminals, like every other human, operates off expectations, meaning 80% of motivation comes from our expectations. Think about something that you expect to suck, that you expect to be hard, you expect to fail at, you expect to be fucking one step away or one thing shy of torture. Something you expect to be fucking embarrassing and humbling and all these other things. And how motivated are you to go do it? Well, for most people, they're not motivated. So they try to avoid that type of shit at all fucking costs. Okay? So human beings are motivated when we have positive expectations. Now, we can go through a lot of shit. We can go through the pain, the suffering, the humiliation if our ultimate expectation is the good things that come from that. People put themselves through torture, diet, physical exercise, all this type of stuff, because the expectation of how they're going to look and how they're going to feel and how they're being perceived by the world outweighs the negative expectation of like the suffering that goes into getting the reward, so to speak. So we're all motivated by expectation. It's just, can you, short-term or long-term pain or pleasure, basically. So bad guys, when they approach, want to keep the shields down. So what we need to do then is look at it and say, what is their expectation? Because either we clash with their expectation, which is going to raise their shields 9 out of 10 times, or we can potentially, strategically and tactically, feed them the expectations that they are expecting. And what happens is when somebody gets what they expected to get, or have happened that they expected to have happen, there tends to be a bit of a relaxation, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Why? Because it's like it's congruous with our thoughts and our beliefs and our feelings. It's like, this is the way I thought it would go. So when you have violent criminals who approach individuals, first off, predator optics. They're already looking for people that they perceive to be victims, right? Meaning they see them alone, they see them isolated, they see a weakness, a vulnerability, something they can exploit. They're not looking for a fight. So they already start by going, I have 1 or 2 advantages over this person. But then as they make their approach, whether it's posturing and go, yo, hey, fuck you, hey man, what are you, come here. I want to talk to you for a second, or whatever it is, or they just do a rapid approach, or hey man, you got to smoke. Whatever it is they're trying to fucking do, they're using verbal discourse to bridge their way in. In that moment, they're weighing out the expectations. They have a blueprint for how they believe this is going to go. And so what we do in that moment can either raise their shields or lower their shields, or just keep them right where they're at. And so again, my thing is I don't want to raise the shields, because if I alert them at all and their shields go up, I've just made the situation 10 times harder. So expectations can be very powerful, and this is what you were alluding to. How do we do this then? Well, you got a guy that doesn't value life. He's got street credit. He's got his reputation. He's done it before. You know, he's assaulted people, murdered people, whatever it is. This guy in this guy's world, he's a somebody. People know who he is in his world, no matter how small. So he's carrying the power of his previous experiences. And so there is a part of him that goes, when I get in someone's motherfucking face, they back the fuck down. They don't challenge me because they know if they do, they fucking know what's going to happen. And so all of a sudden, now we start to understand what their expectation is. And so what happens to an individual who, when they approach, and all of a sudden your gestures and expressions, your body position, your body language, your communication, your behavior patterns, strategically and tactically, mind you, mirror their expectations. So it gives them exactly what they thought would happen. Well, there is, remember the human system. You feel it first, those feelings become thoughts, the feelings and thoughts impact your actions, and the second they see it and go, fuck, this is congruous, this is exactly what fucking happens. They go from the hill, hey motherfucker, where they're like ready and looking at you, then they see, it's right. They see your express, they see exactly what they expected to happen. There's a small part of them, even if it's a couple percent of them, goes, it's fucking right, that's right. I fucking knew it, you little fucking pussy. I knew you wouldn't do it. I knew you had nothing to say. Their shields come down, right? So if we just pause there for a second so that you can jump in and help share your thoughts on it. Expectations is powerful. That's a strategy. It's a tactic we can use by mirroring or modeling their expectations to reduce the shields. The term shields is powerful. A concept of how we do not want denied access for both. You don't, because that's conventional, confrontational, two alphas, so we're starting to put some terminology and build some frameworks so that hopefully people are able to conceptualize this concept a little bit deeper. But how do those words and those terms resonate with you?
Yeah, no, it's clear because like I love this strategy of ours. Like it's one that I always, like it really resonates with me. So I get exactly what you're saying. And, it's one of those things, like I believe that, well, not believe, I know that we've had some pushback on this. But the reason why is if you think of the paradigms that we've got growing up as young men, like it's kind of counterintuitive. It's like you don't let anybody punk you. You don't let anybody talk to you like that. You don't like you got to be the alpha male. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to like So it's one of those things. That's like it's not what we were. It's not natural for us to do this. To an extent. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's like oh you can't, you don't let people do that to you, and it's like. You got to be the alpha male, and I'll maybe stick on that one because I think that one resonates with a lot of people. It's like, yeah, I'm the alpha male, yeah. And it's like, well, what's your fucking objective? Just to be an alpha male, because it's going to get you in a lot of shit. Like I'm running that scenario in my head as you're articulating it to us right now, and I'm just like, yeah, like the last thing I want to do is put up a shield, and it's like I want this guy to think that I'm weak, I'm not going to do anything, because that's how much better is it for me if this guy's expectation is like, yeah, you're right, you're a fucking pussy. And I'm like, perfect. If I could get you to think I'm the biggest bitch and you pick the fucking biggest victim in the world in that moment, your shields go down, and then, like, you don't know that you have an alpha predator on your hands. You're never gonna know. Like, and I like that. It's like nobody knows who the alpha predator is, because it's by the time you find out, it's usually too late. Yeah. I'm not gonna stick around. But it's one of those things. Like, I love that story and just the narrative of like keeping their shields down and tying it in to their expectations. How do you buy in to their expectations and show them that they're right? You
Yep.
know, not like they're like, hey, like I'm not sure about this guy. He's like, no, he gets conviction
Yep.
into his expectations, and that's what you. I think that's if you could do that, then everything you set up afterwards is just going to be magnified.
Yeah, 100%. A couple analogies kind of hit me since Dustin's not here. Someone's got to do the analogies, right? But one of them is like what you just said before I forget that thought. Like it's like you're playing poker and you've got the best hand you've ever had in your life. And that's the wrong way to say that. You have the best hand in poker. Like you're just like, listen, you got to play the odds. And statistically speaking, this hand, you're fucking cleaning house. What you want to do though is if everyone figures out that you have a dominant hand, they're going to fold and you're not going to make the money. But if you can falsehood precedes reality, if you can Trojan horse these motherfuckers, if you can start using gestures and expressions and body language and communication and behavioral, redirection and false cues and all this stuff, and you get them and their expectation is, yeah, that guy's a shitty fucking poker player. Every time that guy thinks he's got something, we clean this guy out. You're going to get guys going all fucking in. And then when the truth is hit, when those cards are turned, they're going to take a fucking beating that is virtually unrecoverable for many people, right? Because it's not only physically damaging because they just fucking lost everything they had, but that is psychologically because they just thought they fucking had you. Everything they were seeing, every sign, their expectation created the motivation, which then impacted their action. They went all in and it cost them. It just fucking takes the legs out underneath them. That is the exact same concept we're talking about. The other side is like, I grew up fucking in the 80s. And so in 87, I got my driver's license. And in 1987 and that era of my 16 to 20 years old, I mean, cars were it, man. And that was the back in the day. I was into them, like old muscle cars, man, a 69, Mustang Fastback, 429 Cobra Jet, all this shit. But it was really big back in the day. You could soup up these cars and work on them and tinker with them and do all this shit. But the sleeper car was big on the fucking scene back in that day, man. And one of the things that was funner than having this really beautiful, gorgeous kind of, street rod or show-worthy car, I mean, that was cool. But you got guys that had fucking old Pintos and fucking, just old fucking ugly shit. And they just balls those things out. Like, I mean, these things were running, 600-700 fucking horse, barely street legal. And they were fucking, and back in the day, I mean, I many times watch guys race for pink slips and watch cars switch hands. And so the sleeper car analogy is literally the same thing. On the outside, human beings have a hard time when they see something. Our sight is such a powerful sensory faculty of ours that when you see something, you see it for what you believe it looks like. That's a piece of fucking shit. So it's going to run like a piece of shit. It's not going to be fast. That's traditionally a 4-cylinder car or whatever it is. Yet shit under the hood can be very fucking different. But I've seen guys racing cars for money. I've seen it for pink slips too, but majority of the time it's for cash. I see guys racing cars for cash, and a fucking piece of shit sleeper car blows away a fucking pimped out, obvious fucking jacked up alpha car. And then a second later, the next dude with the jacked up, pimped out alpha car is on the line against the sleeper car, and he gets taken. And again, and again, and again. In the same night, back to back. Why? Because what they're seeing is a stronger belief. That expectation is stronger than what they just witnessed. You just saw this car. It's been revealed. It's a sleeper. Don't fucking go against it. Fuck that. That was lucky. Look at that piece of shit. Why do these concepts exist in poker? They exist in street racing. They exist in warfare. They exist everywhere. Yet when it comes to violence, very few people understand this fucking concept. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite. It's like most anything is like you fucking get ready, you throw your hands up, you start fucking moving, you start you show willingness and capability and intent. And all that does is fucking actually it blocks access. It takes a hard situation and makes it infinitely fucking harder because you put his fucking shields up. You got to remember, bad guys are walking around. They don't want to fight. They're looking for victimization. They want to destroy. But the type of motherfuckers we're talking about, you are a fucking idiot if you think that they're not willing and ready to fucking throw down. But they're not going to fight you. They're going to fucking swarm you. They're going to fucking maul you. Why do you think they carry the machetes and the guns? And why do you think they travel in fucking herds and do all this other shit? Because they'll walk around and they'll intimidate. They will gain probably 95% of the time. They'll take what they want with no opposition because most good people have never come across that energy. They don't know what the fuck to do. It's like they get hit with a tsunami, they drowned. That's what they fucking do. Everything they think they're going to do, I'm a strong swimmer. Not in a tsunami, motherfucker. you don't swim out of a tsunami. You know what I mean? If that's your fucking plan, it's like, I'm a tough guy. I'd black out. No, you fucking don't. Well, it's good. Maybe you do black out. That way you don't feel the machete coming across your throat and through your back and in your kidney. So, maybe that's better for you. But it's not an effective fucking strategy. Right? So, but in violence and in combat, like the concept is sound. I got it. You have to have the ability to present a Trojan horse that is in alignment with the expectations in an effort to keep their shields down or to lower their shields as much as possible. Maybe you don't get their shields all the way down. Remember, these are two powerful terms when it comes to violence: mitigating and nullifying. At times, we can do things strategically and tactically that completely nullify an advantage that violent criminals may have. It just zeroed it out. Many more times, we can mitigate. And listen, it would be awesome if I could just nullify everything. But it's almost like when you talk about the human body and relaying injury. There are switches and there are timers on the human body. Far too many people watch far too much Hollywood bullshit. And they think that every button, every place on the human body is a switch. Like it's so fucking easy to just hit a guy and knock him the fuck out, like out cold. Just like they think it's so easy to shoot a guy, or the second a bullet hits you, you're fucking dead. You're out. You're it's a switch. You shoot them and down they go. I mean, all you got to do is do a little bit of research. Talk to tier 1 operators who have years of combat experience, who have actual accounts of up close personal CQC battles with a knife. And they'll talk about knives don't work as fast as fuckers as people think they do. Because even if you cut a guy in the artery, what you've done majority of the time is you've started the timer on the human body. It could take them up to 90 seconds to bleed out. In that 90 seconds, motherfuckers can squeeze off a lot of rounds. They can stab back. They can do a lot of things many times. So just again, the point is that it's not as easy when you put up somebody's shields. And now your thought process is, I'm going to relay injury and have the power, the timing, the speed, the placement, the accuracy, the follow through, the emotional content to relay injury when you got a guy fucking primed, on alert, shields up, who is also fucking going, fuck you. And you're just in a fucking, knock down, drag out, fucking sinew ripping, tearing, bone crushing fucking altercation. Good luck, man. That is a fucking hard road to hoe. Especially if you already started out outgunned, outmanned. So again, I'm just trying to really, really build a powerful desire here. I'm building a motivation by trying to help people readjust their own expectations. Okay, if you put a fucker's shields up, even 5 to 10%, you have created a significantly harder problem. If you can mitigate and drop their shields, just cause a mental or emotional, it's exactly like this is going exactly like I thought it would. 5 or 10%. You have given yourself a significant opportunity. Now, obviously, the goal would be to mitigate more, right? But I'll take what I can fucking get, right? You got the deck is stacked against you. If you could walk into a casino and the second you walk through the door, somebody fucking tapped you on the head with their gambling wand and said you've got a 15% increased advantage in every game in here. It's significant. I mean, it's still not great. You're still going to probably lose a lot of money, but it's significant. But if you study these things and you understand the strategies and the tactics and how to use these things and you become efficient with these things, okay, then the advantage you gain is tremendous. But control follows awareness. You're not going to train these things if you're not even aware that they exist or that there is a need for such things. Right? So, and then we haven't even gotten into talking about the Blitzer, the second predatory blueprint. We're just still talking about the posturing predator. Okay? But, and I based off time, we're not going to get into the Blitzer right now, but I want one or two more things I'm going to throw here real quick, Brad, and then I'm going to get your opinion on these things. We've already kind of hopefully set up this concept of how people tend to put up somebody's shields. But I want to give you a couple pieces of terminology. We do not want denied access for both, right? That's clear. I want to keep their shields down. What happens most times is that when bad guys first approach, like you're living your life, and the next thing you know, you're turning around and you're facing a righteous life and death situation. That is terrifying. Interpersonal human aggression, the number one universal human phobia. 98% of all people have a phobic scale response to the tsunami of initiative. A phobic scale response. That's not just they feel a little fear. They have a phobic scale response. If people have never seen this, go look at somebody who has a fear of confined spaces. Watch video and watch what happens when they're put into a confined space. A fear of spiders. Like when you're talking, not just I don't like spiders. Ugh. I'm talking a phobic scale response. Watch what the human system does when it goes phobic. Okay, so 98% of all people will have a phobic scale response to interpersonal human aggression. I mean, violence, pure violence. And so what happens is the second that energy comes on, the threat's it's not even a physical thing yet, but the second that you are in the proximity or become the target of that energy, people have an emotional, they have a psychological, and they have a mental fucking betrayal. And I say it this way for a very specific reason, because our whole process is to be trained and restrained. But then there's the untrained and unrestrained response. I say it's a betrayal because the guy that's just living his life, and when he feels that energy, his emotions that he feels, the fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, all this stuff, the mental thoughts, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck, what am I going to do, what I'm going to do, is all of these things cause his hands to pop out of his pockets. They cause his kind of, his chin to tuck potentially, or, his hands to ball up into a fist, or his body to blade a little bit. These are all telegraphic signs. You have now, like sitting at a poker table, the second you get dealt the cards, the first look you have at the cards, the best poker players at the table have already read you. And if you have a tell, they've already seen it. And the next time it comes around, they're either going in or they're fucking folding because they've already read you. And so the emotional betrayal, the mental betrayal, the psychological betrayal, I call this emotional bleeding. So there is a stimulus, a life and death stimulus, and you have this emotional bleeding, and it impacts your gestures, your expressions, your weight distribution, your behavior patterns, your communication patterns, your tone. All of these things are now caught in this domino effect. And this is what, to make it real clear, if you want an all-access pass, meaning you have access, if and when you are faced with violent criminals, you want access to them so that your counter strategies, your counter tactics, all your countermeasures can be executed right when you need them to be executed. Well, that means that you have to maintain or gain and maintain fucking access to them and not experience the fucking physical, mental, or emotional betrayal or the bleeding that fucking happens when you get reactive to this fucking intense stress that comes out. So, do those words and terms kind of summarize that for you as well, or is there something you'd add to that?
No, I think it no, I like it because it's very clear. The thing that I'm really feeling from this conversation is a rewiring or a perception shift, right? The reason why is because we talked about gaining access, and here's the point that I want to make is these violent criminals. We've said it multiple times tonight, and I know that we've said it lots before. Is they are not going to fight us or fight you. What they're going to do is they're going to get access so they could destroy you. That's the only thing. It's always destruction, right? However they do that, it's always about destruction. So if that is true, and we believe that to be true, and you're like listening, you're like, yep, I believe that. I've listened to these guys long enough for it's true. So then why do we feel that fighting them is what's going to circumvent their destruction? It's not going to. It's not congruent. So I really like it because I think with that rewiring, with that perception shift, is that I think we might get people to think, hey, listen, like that's right. These guys aren't trying to fight me. This isn't anti-social aggression. This is asocial violence. So if that's the landscape that we're in, then I can't show up. What's the saying? Is like don't show up, don't take a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
But it's like I can't show up and thinking that fighting them is going to work when they're not trying to fight me.
Yeah.
So, and it's even like for us, like we talked about that before, we're going to talk about tonight, but it's like, you don't have to do this. That's consent. You don't have to agree to this. Obviously we could talk about no choice and things like that, but, it's just one of those things is, don't fight them because that's not what you're in. You're not in a ring. This isn't MMA or boxing or kickboxing. You're not in a fight. You're being assaulted, So if you think that fighting is going to work in an assault, that's why I really like this because it changes the way you look at it. And it's like, yeah, no, I got to gain access. And how do I do that when they're trying to gain access on me?
Yeah. I mean, I love it because we say this all the time. Like, I'm always telling people when they come in, like, you said it, it's a rewiring. I call it, it's a blueprinting. You're updating or changing blueprints and old paradigms and, your mind setting out different things and, mental mapping out new ways of thinking and perceptions. But that is the study of violence. That is the study of crime. That's the weaponization process. That's why this whole podcast is called The Education of a Weaponized Man. Because, who you are at the beginning of the journey is not who you are even as, a quarter of the way through the journey. It is sure as fuck not who you are as you get to the midway and beyond in this journey. And this journey is a lifestyle journey. It's endless. As much as as far as you want to go, it'll take you. But it is absolutely redoing that. And again, I think what we're trying to capture in a lot of our podcasts is to not just talk about the same, again, it's the tip of an iceberg. And so what everybody can see, there's lots to talk about there because what we see is different than what most people see. If you study climate and you study fucking shit, like, you can look at an iceberg, you're going to see things that other people don't. You know what I mean? I go walking through the botanical gardens and I'm fucking colorblind, so that doesn't help. But, I see trees and fucking plants, you know what I mean? And most of them are fairly fucking similar. But you go with people that, see color, you go with people that are, I don't even fucking horticulturists. I don't even know what they are, but I mean, like, they're seeing species and they're just seeing shit on a depth that I can't even process that. But violence is the same way. And when you talk about this, these are conversations you don't hear people having when it comes to self-defense. I mean, it's literally people talking about, this kick versus that kick, or do nerve strikes work, or, is punching the throat a myth, or is that the secret sauce? Like, it's all this stuff. Does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really work? Is MMA better than Thai boxing? It's just the same fucking conversation that just perpetuates this stereotypical, like, yeah, if you train and learn to fight, fighting is defending. And it's like, it can be, but that's like, can I use a hammer to screw in a screw? Well, you can, but I mean, there's a far fucking better tool for that. It's called a screwdriver. Like, why don't I just use the context determines content? So I like the fact that you went to the remapping, and hopefully people off this can kind of, really conceptualize what we're talking about the strategies and the tactics of gaining access. Because, and I'll just bring it right back to what I said at the beginning, which was whatever it is you want to do, right? To actually do it, it requires you have access. And access to me is not, fuck you. You want to go, motherfucker? Let's go. His shields go up, my shields go up, and now that's gladiators. I mean, you put two gladiators in an arena, or put them in a cage or a ring, or just walk them outside in the street. Everybody knows what's happening. They're gladiators. You are consenting to what's about to happen. Whether it's two highly fucking trained and skilled warriors and gladiators going at it, or whether it's two fucking, the three librarians arguing about the Dewey Decibel System, and they, decide to take it to the next level. It's consensual. It's gladiator shit. So then go fight. Everybody does what they do. Violence is not that. Violence is not gladiators. You know what I mean? If violent individuals need to kill a gladiator, well, they murder him. Right? You can fight a fighter, but you can't fight a killer. You got to kill a killer. And I hope people can unpack that. So violent individuals have no problem murdering killers or murdering fighters. Like, they're not going to ding dong. Hey, get the fuck out in your front yard. Let's fucking go, man. Because they're going to get whooped. Because they can't fight. They can destroy. So hopefully people through this all can recognize how vitally important it is to gain access. And then you got to have the strategies and tactics, all the things, expectations. You got to regulate. You got to worry about their shields. There's just lots of stuff, emotional bleeding. There's all kinds of different tactics and concepts and frameworks that we've tried to share with you tonight. So I think for me, we're probably, it's as much as we can go without just really starting to kind of regurgitate more and more, and just that ends up just leading to confusion. So is there anything else you want to throw down range on this?
No, I think my last point was kind of summarizing what I felt.
It was a great way to wrap it up, I think, for you. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to pull the pin on it here. That was really good, Brad. Thank you so much. Again, I hope that everyone listening to this or watching this, you got to come into this with your thinking caps on. You know what I mean? Part of what I want is to challenge people's thought process. Not everybody's going to fully understand or fully agree, and that's 100% fine. I prefer that. But it's food for thought, and it's very important food for thought. It's the more that we can get you thinking and understanding. Context determines content. Setting your standard. What is it you want? What are you training for? Right? Because that matters in this. And if what you are training for, what your fear is, and what your desires are, is to be able to protect in the face of violent criminal assault, your family, your property, other innocent people, and yourself, then you really want to put that thought process and that critical thinking into this. So hopefully we're able to stimulate that for you. So, all right, everybody, that is it. We appreciate you. Please like, follow, share, comment. We love the feedback. We love when we get new members because other people share, new followers, new supporters. So it's amazing, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much. And that is it, everybody. All right, Brad, thank you very much for your time. Dustin should be back next week. And we'll see what he's got to think then. But other than that, stay safe, stay weaponized. We're going to chat again soon, everybody. Good night.